As of our taping on Thursday this week, lawmakers were still meeting in Santa Fe for the special legislative session. Issues up for debate include a budget shortfall for the last fiscal year and a projected deficit for the current year, and maybe even the one after that. But Governor Martinez also put the death penalty and other crime and public safety issues on the list when she called lawmakers back to the Roundhouse more than a week ago. Our line opinion panelists are ready to weigh on what we know right now. So I'm joined by Daniel Foley, former New Mexico House Minority Whip, Laura Sanchez-Rivey, an attorney at Cuddy & McCarthy, LLP, Sophie Martin, she's an attorney and editor at DukeCityFix.com, and former State Representative Janice Arnold-Jones is here. Now, Daniel, one of the big developments this week was the passage of a bill to bring back the death penalty in some cases. The House passed it on a party line vote in the middle of the night. Was that the right thing to do, to revisit this at that time, or?
Well, 64% of the people in New Mexico say it was. You know, I mean, it seems to be one of the few things that the people agree on. I was surprised to see when you break down the information that 54% of Democrats want to see it reinstated. We've talked about this early on, about the death penalty being in the special session.
Right.
I think that with the current circumstances that have arisen out there, with the recent deaths that have happened, I think it was just a matter of time. I think having a special session right now after the trial of the police officer, the other trial for the two police officers that shot Hyde, for the baby Brianna's mother getting out of jail, I just think it was a perfect storm.
Right.
And you have to remember, whether we like to talk about it this way or not, it is a political issue. It's also an extremely emotional issue.
That's right.
And so if you've got the momentum on your side with the news media, with actual events, with things that are happening, you've got to seize that opportunity. When they repealed the death penalty, it was the same thing. There was the move from those Republican governors that were acquitting folks in other states and saying that, hey, DNA evidence is exonerating folks, and the folks that wanted the death penalty repealed seized that opportunity, came to New Mexico, and got the emotion to work. It's not surprising that it's in there. I'm surprised in an election year, especially in the House. The House, you know, the Senate always seems to kind of, you know, and even in election year, senators kind of get a little squirrely, but House people in election year, they're like long-tailed cats in a room full of rocking chairs. I'm surprised that there wasn't at least one or two Democrats that came over and said, yeah, I'm going to vote for that.
Interesting.
What was the source of those statistics that you mentioned?
The poll from the Albuquerque Journal.
Yes.
There you go. Janice, Dan makes a pretty cogent point that, you know, folks want to react. The House is usually where reactions happen. You know,
It's being reacted.
It reacted too, so fair enough. Is it just a question of getting it out of our system and moving on, or was this an actual move that, you know, has meaning that we have to have reinstated here? Where do you fall on this, on the death penalty?
Well, after many years saying I am pro-death penalty, when it came to vote, I want you to know that I voted to repeal the death penalty. And not for as many moral grounds, but financially, we can't sustain it. And nothing in this bill has changed. I was surprised that the bill was literally lifted, including all of its arcane language. I was stunned that it was dropped without obviously having been read.
Right.
But the very issues that I thought was a problem, which is the length of times. I mean, with all due respect, it became the Lawyer Protection Act. And that is not that's not justice. But more importantly, I worry about the polls that Dan is recording. And I think Sandroff is a good guy, but a lot of polls out there said, do you think these people who murdered Victoria Merton should die? Well, what are you going to say?
Right.
Do I feel that?
Perhaps by the hand of God, but
Yes.
that doesn't necessarily mean, yeah.
But do I feel that? Yes, I do. I'm furious. But might a better penalty and punishment be to put them in the general population and let them just figure it out? Maybe.
Interesting point there. What do you think, Laura, on this one, on the death penalty?
I love how Janice always turns, with all due respect. It's a very specific area.
It wasn't offensive.
It's a very specific group of people, lawyers that do that kind of work, and it's not us. But in any event, I was disappointed that it happened at the hour that it happened.
Right.
I mean, it's not entirely surprising. I mean, these things happen on both sides of the aisle. This is, you know, political wrangling 101. It's not a big deal in terms of the politics, but I think for the people that care about this issue, it is a big deal to have something happen sort of in the cloak of darkness, when they don't have time, when there's no sort of heads up. And again, everybody does it, but this is a huge issue that I think a lot of people are concerned about. A lot of people I've heard from, and I have friends that are really strong Catholics, and they feel very much like this is a moral issue,
That's right.
and something that deserves a lot more time and discussion and their participation in the process as well. So it was disappointing to see that it happened at the hour that it happened, and not surprising that it was along party lines. I mean, this is what happens when you have total control of one house or the other.
But it wasn't a surprise. It wasn't as if folks sprung this in on that day, night, whatever it was. Republicans went into the session saying this is what we're going to do.
Well, it's not a
know?
surprise that they considered it. It's
Yeah.
a surprise that they decided to push it and wait until the middle of the night. I mean,
Yeah.
there aren't any cameras around. People are not going to. Everybody else, and probably some of those legislators too, have a real life out there, a job,
That's right.
things that you have to do first thing in the morning. You're not sort of staying up all night to
That's
just
right.
watch a debate like this. And I think that's what is probably sticking in the craw of a lot of people
That's
who
right.
care about this issue.
Sophie, let me throw in 3 strikes as well. We have
Okay.
death penalty and 3 strikes. Again, but at limited time to consider both, and Janice made the point, and Laura made the point too, these things need consideration, and they also need the public's input
They do need
as well.
consideration. They do need the public's input. Look, there is no doubt in my mind that Governor Martinez and her consigliere, Jay McCleskey, looked at these issues and said, it's an election year, let's put him out there. We fully expect that we're going to get full support from the Republicans. We're going to get 0 support from the Democrats, and they're going to run ads and send mailers. Cynically, I think, run ads and send mailers exactly on this issue. Now, I think from the public's perspective, there's been enough pushback over this. We're in a budget crisis. We need to take care of this. New Mexico's taxpayers need to know that services are going to be delivered, that our government isn't going to shut down. I actually think it was probably somewhat strategic to do it at midnight, beyond what we've already discussed. But this, you didn't, I hate to say it, waste time on this issue
Okay.
that is not the primary focus of this special session
Right.
during business hours.
Right.
You took it to a period where you could say, well, we wouldn't have gotten this other work done at that time anyway. I mean,
That's fair.
I think from the layperson's perspective, it's as if it didn't happen during work hours. Does
Right.
that kind of make sense?
When there's no light of day,
So,
literally.
and I'm not talking about the players. I'm talking about it just happened. So we don't see long discussions. We don't see arguments on the floor. We don't see that stuff. So it doesn't feel like time was wasted on it. But the truth is, I don't believe the governor has any belief that this would pass. I think it is a highly cynical political move, and we're going to see the ads roll out in the next couple weeks.
Interesting. Now, let's back up and consider what's been going on here. I'm going to touch on the shenanigans of last week, then we'll bring it up to what we know as of this taping on Thursday midday, which is difficult. But we had an interesting situation in the Senate. They passed a passel of budget-based bills, 10 of them, not counting, 11 in total, but 10 that were real ones. And then we had a mic drop where folks were like, okay, we're done here, and walked and basically left. Is that helpful? Does that move the ball down the field, as they say?
It doesn't, but it's not uncommon. I mean, what you do is you take that stance, and it kind of forces the hands of the folks in the House, because now you can kind of say to them, go do your job. We're
Right.
not here to distract you. We're not hearing anything else.
Right.
But what it does present, I think it was a bad move on the Democrat side in the Senate, because I think it put a lot of power in the House now, because the House is now able to figure out when we're going to send bills,
Right.
send bills over in a certain order, force your hand and hold other things, make changes without you there. And as the Republicans have done a good job articulating, I think today, they've been able to say, look, we were able to fix all of this stuff without any input from you guys. You guys went home. The last time when I was in the legislature and the Senate did that, it didn't play well for them. I mean, the media got pretty angry.
remember
Folks
that,
got
yeah.
pretty angry. People started writing letters saying, senators, go back, go back and do your job.
Yeah.
I was surprised that they did it in an election year.
Okay.
Like I said, I think, everybody gets a little bit different personality, but I think it also goes to show the unbelievable strength that Michael Sanchez has in the state Senate over both Democrats and Republicans. The guy really does make the trains run. It does work at what he says to make it do. And I think at the end of the day, it just highlighted that, the minority Republicans in the Senate really seem to be happy being the minority and are not happy to get involved in these political plays.
Well, let me ask Laura that same question. You mentioned Sanchez. He had plenty of Republican fingerprints on his bills that went over to. You know what I mean? It wasn't as if it was a straight Democrat thing.
I think,
Yeah.
I think that one of the big differences is just the culture of the House.
Yeah.
No disrespect intended.
Thank you.
Versus the
the other guys.
culture of the Senate. And I think that every session, if you watch the legislature ever, the House is always there till 2 a.m. every session debating every single bill, and the Senate has a very different time frame for when they consider things, and it's just different. And I think that this is there's more of that in play here than I think the sort of partisan stuff that Dan just talked about. I mean, yes, of course, the Senate Majority Leader has a tremendous amount of power. If the Republicans were in control, they would too. Look at the House now. I mean, the House Republicans have a lot of power. I mean, that's what comes with being in the majority.
Right.
And I think the Democrats in the House are now realizing, it sucks to be in the minority, and it does. And I can't imagine, to Dan's point, I can't imagine that the Senate Republicans are happy to be in that position, but I do think that the culture is a little bit different, where they have something to do, they're going to do it, they're going to go after that.
You can
And
get
so-
agreement without having it to be World War III.
I think
In
so.
about 20 seconds, we're going to pick this up here just after a quick break. The mic drop, the Senate mic drop. I want to get your thoughts on that before we break here. What did you make of that move? Do you agree with Dan that politically gave power to the House? That's an interesting take.
I do think it gave power to the House, and it puts them in a very difficult position now, because now they have some very solid financial bills over there. They're going to have to go to conference committee. There is no choice. And now there are bills over there that the House can say, unless you hear these bills, we're not going to conference.
There you go. We're going to take a pause on that for a few minutes. When we come back to the line, we'll talk more about the special session and the current state budget deficit.